Hey, I'm Dirks, meet Dirk, and welcome to Stop Skeletons and Fighting. In 2004, I put down $5 for a pre-order of Resident Evil 4 at Babbage's, and I got a bonus Resident Evil 4 GameCube demo disc. And of course, you know your boy still got it. The demo on this disc goes from the very start of the game to the very end of the village fight, basically from title screen to bingo line.
Where's everyone going?
Which happens to be the exact same chunk of game as the Resident Evil 4 Remake Chainsaw Demo that Capcom put out 2 weeks before the launch of Resident Evil 4 Remake. So in a way, Capcom remade the game, but they also remade the demo. Now, this is punching weight. You could watch another video about how the remake compares to the original RE4, but Uncle Derek goes dumber around here. That is not enough. I'm gonna walk you through the GameCube demo, the Japanese-only Biohazard 4 demo, and the Remake Chainsaw Demo, and see how they all compare to the original version of Resident Evil 4. The Remake demo shows just how far this series has come from the original release, and the GameCube demo shows how some of RE4's iconic features that changed gaming forever, almost didn't happen or happened at the 11th hour. You thought you knew everything about Resident Evil 4? You thought wrong. This video is spoiler-free for the main Resident Evil 4 remake campaign. This is gonna be all about the demos. And I've gotta be honest, I made this video to help me deal with an exceptionally shitty week. You know, I don't usually make current gaming videos, but I guess really how current is it since the demo came out 2 weeks ago? We're actually filming this part last, and we're actually filming it on launch day. But I was working through some stuff. This one's just for me, so let's go. But first, check this out. I'm trying out fast and fresh meals from HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, man, you can get chef-crafted seasonal recipes that come with pre-portioned ingredients. So all you gotta do is cook and enjoy. Listen, cooking can be stressful. With HelloFresh, it's all laid out for you. Look at this. In about approximately 45 seconds for you, it's gonna look exactly like this. Plus, HelloFresh knows you're busy. That's why they take care of the meal planning and prepping. No more running to the grocery store after work or spending hours on meal prep. Here's my impression of you. Wait a minute. I'm not going to the grocery store. I got HelloFresh. And you know what? You can have a home-cooked, delicious home-cooked meal on your table in no time. And so am I. I'm at the table with the food, the final ingredient, that Dijon honey. What you need to do, get the chicken and the potato and some salad. Try it all at once. Yeah. This sauce is really good. Yeah. And the best part, you can get 60% off plus free shipping when you go to HelloFresh.com and use my code Skeletons60. So if you want to make mealtime easy and delicious, you go to HelloFresh.com and use the offer code Skeletons60 for 60% off plus free shipping. Thanks to HelloFresh for sponsoring this part of the video. With a full stomach, on to the video. Let's take a moment to appreciate Resident Evil's long lineage of demos. Resident Evil 1 Director's Cut had a Resident Evil 2 demo, which, at the time, was reason enough to buy it a second time. Or third time. RE3 had a Dino Crisis demo, and actually Dino Crisis had an RE3 demo. And most of these featured slight differences from their respective finished games, except for the PS2 Resident Evil 4 demo. That is the same chunk of game as the GameCube demo we're about to go over, but was released after RE4 was already finished, so it doesn't have any major differences. Capcom kept up with RE demos well into the download era, probably peaking with RE7's multiple versions of the beginning hour demo, which is basically free DLC. They started to get a little stingy with timed demos, like the one-shot RE2 demo, literally a single timed trial of the finished game, and an hour-long demo for RE Village. I'm guessing the reaction was pretty sour because Capcom made sure to say right up front that the Resident Evil 4 Remake Demo has no time limit and can be played as much as you want. So, the RE4 Remake Chainsaw Demo is not only a remake of the GameCube demo, but also a return to form for Resident Evil demos. The Resident Evil 4 Remake Demo has a lot of content, but no extras to speak of, which, alright, it's just a download, of course it doesn't, but this is something that we lost with digital demos because the GameCube demo is a physical disc with trailers of all of the then mainline Resident Evil games. Trailers for Resident Evil 0 and the remake, as well as the intro cinematics for Resident Evil 2, 3, and Code Veronica. Now, if you were like me, you grew up with the PlayStation or N64 versions of Resident Evil 2, and it'll shock you to know that the intro here on this disc, as well as the GameCube port, is much higher quality. I've watched this intro at least 100 times, but here, watching it in its uncompressed glory, it just looks crazy. I can't put the Vaseline back on the lens. I can't take this. And while we're still talking about the trailers here on this GameCube demo, remember when Code Veronica was something Capcom actually acknowledged? Hey Capcom, you know what Resident Evil game actually needs a remake? Friggin' Code Veronica! And did you know that Code Veronica X for the PS2 was released originally to celebrate Resident Evil's 5th anniversary? Man, this series released so many bangers in just a 5-year period. That's crazy. It also had a Devil May Cry demo, which technically is the very first Resident Evil 4 demo. But we're not talking about that here. But no fun legacy stuff on the Resident Evil 4 Remake demo. But we do have 2 quick allusions to the original game. This title screen animation looks a lot like the path that Leon and his escorts are driving in the intro. It's even got the spooky diagonal trees for extra spooky atmosphere. The loading screen when you launch the remake demo shows an aerial shot of the famous village, which is similar to the original version's title screen, which always felt a little odd to me. I mean, it is an iconic part of the game, but it is just a tiny portion of the overall game. Felt like it should have also cycled through pictures of the castle and the islands, but whatever. Resident Evil 4 Remake Demo also does not have the classic warning, "This game contains strong language and scenes of explicit violence and gore," which is more of a promise than a warning, let's be real. The same warning/promise appears on the GameCube demo as well, but it's stylized in a completely different way. It also has this cool Capcom logo animation. The letters kind of spiral together and then spiral out. I think it's kind of cool looking, and I don't know that I saw it in any other Capcom game at the time. And here we are, the GameCube demo title screen. It is technically called the Trial Edition, while the Remake Demo was called the Chainsaw Demo. Yeah, Capcom has gotten way better at marketing in the last 20 years. Like, come on, 2004's Capcom, don't bury the lead. Give the people what they want, and we want chainsaws. And if I'm being honest, like, chainsaw demos are great. Chainsaw controllers are better. Like, come on, Capcom, you remade the game, you remade the demo. Are we remaking these chainsaw controllers next? What are we even doing here? Or do I gotta do everything myself around here? Alright, so let's get into the game proper, and this is something I love about old demos versus new demos today. In old demos, you are really seeing an unfinished game. Yes, the remake demo has the warning, this is not the final product, blah blah blah, but we are basically seeing a finished build of the game just without the day one patch. For example, the GameCube demo has a single option to toggle inverted controls on what looks like the default background of a DVD maker. And that is it. The remake demo has a full suite of options. Controller settings, display settings. Hey, you want to change the color of the biosensor scope? A thing that is definitely not in this demo? Go nuts! Now here's a fun fact. The GameCube demo is copyright 2004, even though Resident Evil 4 came out in 2005. That is because Resident Evil 4 was delayed one last time pretty close to launch after this demo came out. It was originally going to be released just days from Halo 2, but we'll see how maybe those extra few months really did make a difference. Starting the game on the GameCube demo gives us the classic Resident Evil 4. However, Remake Demo continues the trend of modern Resident Evil games that give you absolutely nothing when you start the game. Never forget what they took from us.
Resident Evil. Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil. Resident Evil. Resident Evil 0, 2, 3, 4, 5. Survivor. Revelation. Resident Evil.
That's what I expected from you.
We get some lore background in the remake demo, filling in a little bit of backstory of how exactly Leon went from rookie cop to presidential bodyguard. They do not, however, explain that Canadian accent.
That night, Raccoon City was wiped out.
It was wiped out?
Wiped out.
It was wiped out.
Somehow I made it out. This time, it can be different. It has to.
Yeah, it sounds like that was Capcom's mission with Resident Evil 4 Remake here. It is in fact very different, and I cannot believe they actually pulled this off. It is not the full intro, we get some text instead of chatting with our escorts in the car, but it is more than we got in the GameCube demo. Here, we just get a few screens of sparse text. It's not very much, but they still managed to have a ton of tiny errors. Numbers 10 and under should be spelt out. Incident occurred in Raccoon City. Period. That is a complete sentence. No need for an ellipsis there. Ashley Graham. Okay, no errors there. Leon must locate her whereabouts and get her out safely. Get her out safe is grammatically correct, but it sounds super clunky. C-. I expect more from you. There's a Japanese-only GameCube demo of Biohazard 4 that was packaged in with a Famitsu magazine, and this exact same text appears in that demo too. I don't know why it wasn't written in Japanese. The more I dig into this, the less I understand it, so let's just move on. GameCube demo does have the last scene with Leon's chauffeurs, but no chat with Hunnigan. This demo should have had 3 chats with Hunnigan, but she is not in this GameCube demo at all. When the remake starts proper, I can imagine it has speedrunners cheering. Resident Evil 4 Remake does not have a super long intro. It still has the same scenic start as in Resident Evil 7 and 8, but you can cruise all past that in a few seconds if you want. There is plenty to look at, including an animal carcass of some kind. Resident Evil 7 and 8, and now Resident Evil 4 Remake, all have animal carcasses in the very beginning. Bit of an odd tradition that they've started. Turn around, you'll see that the 2 local cops are missing from the car, as opposed to waiting in the car like in the original. I think this is a really nice improvement and gives Leon much better motivation to start snooping around the village. In the original game, they're useless smartasses who give Leon guff if you talk to them or walk in the wrong direction.
Forget your makeup or something?
Well, now that you mention it, but would appear in the remake, Leon did not forget his makeup. Nor did Ashley. Wow. But here is where we see one of the first huge differences with the GameCube demo: the controls and camera. The C-stick locks your views tilted up or down instead of just giving you a general free look. And the aiming controls are way off. Now this is always a tough thing to explain in a video, but Leon doesn't quite move with the rest of the camera. Feels a bit like aiming in GoldenEye, where there's like a small box where you can move independent of the camera, especially like shifting left and right. The camera doesn't follow your aiming in the same way, and it's actually really difficult to tell what the hell you're aiming at. And that, combined with the fact that your laser pointer is super faint, it just ain't as tight as the original game. Suffice it to say, I usually do not have this much trouble hitting the crows. Sorry, I said I usually don't have this much trouble. Don't have this much trouble. I usually don't. Said I usually do not have this much trouble. Okay, whatever. My point is that Resident Evil 4 is one of the most polished games of all time, and this demo suggests that that polish came super late in development. The remake also has crows perched on a tree, but at this point you can't use your gun or open your inventory. Also looks like the trees here are plucked straight from House Beneviento. But this is an example of tons of tiny details from the original game represented in this remake, but in subtle, clever ways. Stuff you might not have even noticed at first. There's a little nook to the right, just like the window you can jump from in the original game, but you end up jumping from a different window on the second floor, and there's actually no window here at all. On the left side, there is no bundle of logs or the wheelbarrow like in the original, but it does have what looks like some old wooden fence boards and a busted up wheelbarrow in the corner. Also, you can't attack yet, so no boxes to break. Alright, let's go inside. Now, when I say the remake is similar but still very much its own thing, this first house here is a huge example of it. Both the scenario and the house have been totally redesigned. In the original game, villagers block you from escaping the house. However, in the remake here, the door just magically closes and locks itself behind Leon. Now, in the original game, there is a cutscene of someone watching Leon as he approaches the house. This cutscene does not play in the remake. However, there's an extra room with a hole that you can see the fire through. And given where the villager spawns in the next room, it certainly seems as though that he could have been spying on you. Oh, and I played through Resident Evil Village again pretty recently. This bowl of fruit is absolutely a recycled asset. And that is not a criticism at all. I mean, I'm partially recycling this video, so who am I to judge Capcom if they recycle assets? Okay, I love this next part. So in the original game, Leon just walks into a stranger's house, brandishing a gun, assumes the person in this, quote,
lonely and rural part of Europe
knows English,
excuse me, sir?
Shows them a photo of some girl, and then gets all offended when they're like, dude, get the hell out of my house.
Lárgate, cabrón!
Sorry to bother you.
Also, I've always loved how the villager spins all the way around the opposite way to face Leon. That is really badass. Now, this is the first time you'll notice that Leon's voice work is not the same in the GameCube demo.
Excuse me, sir? Excuse me. Sir?
Paul Mercier's lines are the same, but the delivery is different.
I was wondering if you might recognize the girl in this photograph.
Throughout the GameCube demo, Leon's voice is a lot deeper and very monotone.
I was wondering if you might recognize the girl in this photograph.
Instead of being a little higher up with slightly more range in his delivery.
I was wondering if you might recognize the girl in this photograph.
I really wonder how much dialogue was re-recorded for the final game.
Sorry to bother you.
The man then defends his home, and Leon again yells at him in English.
I said freeze!
Dude, he does not understand you. And you broke into his home with a gun! Or as Leon puts it,
There was a hostile local. I had no choice but to neutralize him.
this moment has always been really funny to me, but it is keeping with the cornball action movie vibe this game delivers, so it's never really felt out of place. Now in the remake, this scene is essentially the same, but the context is completely different. The villager suddenly appears from behind the door, which is a great little scare that builds tension in the scene. Leon apologizes for just entering their house,
Sorry to barge in like this.
speaks Spanish to the local.
Busco a un policía. Vino aquí?
Nailed it, buddy. At least he's trying. He instead asks about his police escorts, as opposed to being all like, hey, can you help me with my top secret mission? And is only attacked when the villager notices that Leon has spotted the badge on the ground. Though this is not where the game's combat starts, instead Leon neutralizes the hostile local, in genuine self-defense, by the way, with a swift kick to the guy's neck. Wait a minute, Leon can super kick this dude and break his damn neck, but this flimsy wooden door was deadbolted. What are you gonna do? Now at this point in the original game, this is where shit gets real, but the remake is just getting started. We get a key, head to the basement, and find the body of our police friend. Oh, and by the way, there's a rat or a possum crawling around down here, and you don't get anything for killing it, so maybe don't. But here is where the action really starts, and I think this moment is so brilliant for establishing the stakes. The broken neck guy shambles down the stairs after you. That is so smart. Great job. I love this moment. You get back up the stairs, and instead of having a showdown with the reinforcements outside, they're in the house looking for you, coming from a false wall that you totally did not notice, even though there is an X written on the damn thing, and it's on the map. Now you can pretty easily just run past them, there you go speedrunners, or you can take them out. You can actually stealth kill both of them, but I guess I rushed in too soon and got spotted. Thankfully your knife is super handy, and that's something that was not always the case in Resident Evil 4. From the GameCube demo to the original game, and now the remake, the knife has had a pretty incredible little journey. In RE4, your firearm is mapped to R, and your knife is mapped to L. It is never in your inventory, never taking up space, is never something you need to equip. The RE1 DS port actually adopts this exact thing, and it works so good in that game. In the GameCube demo, the L button has exactly zero, that's right, zero use, because the knife must be equipped manually from the inventory. Now in the remake, R is your knife, but L plus R is your firearm. So it went from a thing you have to equip to a thing mapped to L plus A to basically neutral R2, and it is also a parry, which is a small change that changes the dynamic of the game's combat pretty significantly. Oh, and get a load of this inventory screen on the GameCube demo. Hey, were you ever curious what Resident Evil 4 would be like without the attaché inventory? Here you go. This implies that the inventory screen, that's, by the way, so iconic that someone made an entire puzzle game out of it, was put in late in development. Also, there are 60 spaces here. 60! And the shotgun takes up only one space. But so do the treasures that you can sell later. But still, imagine being able to hold like every weapon of the game at once. The remake not only has the classic attaché, but also case upgrades, which you can see in the demo if you look for it. You can only see that it is equipped with an upgrade, not anything more, but it is there in the demo. Now behind the false wall you can see some skulls under the stairs, just like in the original, though there's no text prompt in the remake demo, so it's kinda easy to miss. Now let's head upstairs. Leon jumps on a codec with Hunnigan, who is Hachi-Machi, a smoking hot nerd goddess in the remake. God damn. Anyway, Leon is swarmed and jumps out the window because of course he does. You can actually jump out the other window in the original game, but why the hell would you do that? Now this is actually a fun little reference that you probably didn't pick up on because you're not a huge dumb nerd like me. So Leon jumps out the window and the bad guys are just like, whatever. Which is exactly what they do in the original game if you just run past them. If you do not bother to fight these guys, they will chase you to a point and then decide, nah, and then just walk away. Or maybe they had to go and prepare the afternoon bingo game. I don't know.
Where's everyone going?
So we are past the first house. Things have officially popped off. Ain't no backtracking in the remake though. Not that you would need to, but I thought it was worth pointing out that in the original game, you can backtrack all the way back to that first bridge if you wanted to. All the way from the village, actually. Before the villagers see you, you can go through that door and head all the way back if you want to. In the remake, however, nope. That front door locks behind you, and the path around the house here is blocked off. Capcom wants you to get your ass forward and stop wasting time. Oh, and I guess speaking of which, on the path to the village, we see just about the same stuff as the original game, but it's all in a completely different order. Continuing that theme of honoring the original game, but putting a new, fresh spin on things. Right away, we cross a bridge. Now in the original game, this bridge comes between the second and third shacks, but it's right away here in the remake. However, just like in the original game, the first save point is in the very first shack past that big house. But now it is a save point that is much more difficult to miss because you have to walk through the house. And I actually think it's a small, subtle example of how the philosophy of game development has shifted so much over the years. A lot of talk about the yellow paint on the breakable boxes around here, but hey, what about this first save point that you cannot miss? And just like the original game as well, right after that first shack, there are two crows just chilling out there. Though neither drops a grenade in the remake, so maybe it's just best to save your ammo. Alright, and I swear, this has nothing to do with the fact that while I was making this video, my dog was in the ER, but Capcom, what are you doing with the dog here? Just like in the original game and the demo, we see a dog caught in a bear trap, except here in the remake demo, the dog is already dead. You cannot save the dog. What are you doing, Capcom? Things have changed since the GameCube era. We pet the dog in video games now. Even Grunkle Shinji Mikami himself made a special announcement just to say that you can pet the dog in Ghostwire Tokyo. This was revealed in early gameplay previews of Resident Evil 4 Remake, and I have been outraged since. If in the finished game you cannot save this dog, or if there isn't another dog to save, I take it all back. Worst game ever. RE4 Remake campaign spoilers coming in 3, 2, 1. Okay, spoilers over. Moving on, near the dog corpse, there is a well with its cover propped open. I tried shooting the stick to see if it would close the cover, and nope. There's also no pocket watch hanging around to collect anyway. Maybe that appears later in the finished game. And this right here is the second shack. In the GameCube demo and the finished game, there is a female villager impaled against the wall through her damn face. Not that Resident Evil 4 isn't a game that goes hard, but damn! By the way, this is the only female villager in the GameCube demo, and because there's no Hunnigan, that means this is the only woman in the GameCube demo. Which, you know, don't read into that. It's probably nothing. In the remake demo, there is no impaled woman, but the dog is dead. So I guess take from that what you will. Overall, the path to the village is much longer with a lot more to look at in the remake. However, there are far, far fewer bear traps for Leon to worry about and 0 tripwire bombs. But check out this truck. Does this truck look familiar? It is not the exact same truck, but it is basically the same truck that is initially blocking your path and then rams your police buddies off the cliff. I thought this was a really fun callback, and they tried to cover it up with a bunch of like leaves and stuff growing on it. I still noticed. And I don't know if this is meant to be an allusion to the original game, but this guy by the truck, at first, you think he's alone, but he's got a buddy waiting in the bushes above you. Clever girl. And this kind of reminds me of the group of guys watching you from way above on the hill. I always thought it was weird those guys don't run off and warn the others, but they are the 3 guys who appear at the entrance if you try to run back out of the village. So I guess they locked Leon in there, but they don't go and warn everybody else? Seemed weird. Anyway, in the remake demo, you will find yourself ambushed by this other guy who slips down from the cliffs above you. And maybe that's like the same thing as these guys over here. I don't know. Maybe. Also, this is the first time we get to see the Plagas transformation up close. Kinda. They of course do not go full tentacle yet, just like in the original game, but in the remake, we've already crossed the Rubicon with that very first enemy. Now we get another small taste of what's to come right here. Which is more than what we got in the original game. Interesting fact, in the original game, you cannot perform any headshots until you get to the village. I mean, you can shoot them in the head, but you don't get that satisfying pop until you enter the village. Look, even in the finished game, a fully upgraded broken butterfly in the village? Before the village. Yeah, I never understood that. Okay, almost to the village. Here is the single soul bear trap that you can step on in this area in the remake demo, and it is well hidden. Stepped on this damn thing more times than I care to admit. One final shack before the village proper, and this, for me, is low-key a defining moment for Resident Evil 4. The fact that this game had this much granular detail that you could aim and shoot through the partially boarded up window and hit this guy in the head was incredible. You just did not see this kind of stuff at the time. It is far less impressive in the remake, of course, but in the original game, it was an early preview of just how much detail they poured into Resident Evil 4. Here we go, and welcome to the village. Again, the door locks behind Leon in the remake. Capcom says no backtracking. And let's talk about the binoculars. These were almost a much bigger part of the game. In the GameCube demo, the Z button is your dedicated binocular button instead of your dedicated map button. In this demo, man, at any point you can hit Z and just start looking at stuff. In the Japanese GameCube demo for Biohazard 4 that came with the issue of Famitsu magazine, there is the classic attaché inventory, but there is no L button knife, and it has these Z button binoculars, which again suggests that huge major changes to Resident Evil 4 were made super late in development. Did they really spend however many freaking years pausing to pull the knife out every time they wanted to break a box or a barrel? So here is where there are so many differences between the remake and the original. There's almost too much to talk about. I will say this though, the remake demo has more raw content and genuine secrets. And no, I don't mean this locked drawer here, or the building you need Ashley to piggyback into. In the remake demo, before you enter the village, if you discard your entire inventory, everything, all weapons, ammo, herbs, everything, the covers on these two wells will be gone and you can climb down and find a leveled up TMP and a ton of ammo. And once you've done that, you will always have the TMP in your inventory when you play the demo. And how is this going to impact the final game? Is this little underground area going to only be in the demo? Not to mention the remake demo also has a hard mode, which actually is not that unique. That Japanese-only GameCube demo for Biohazard 4 also has a hard mode that unlocks once you've beaten that game's normal mode. I played through it. Honestly, I didn't find it really that much harder. But North America, we finally got a Resident Evil 4 demo that has a hard mode. It only took 19 years.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Okay, so here we go. The village attack. This is an iconic, historic, landmark, other big important words, moment for video games right here. In the original game, the dynamic way the villagers broke down doors, hoisted up ladders to attack you, chased you around the village was revolutionary. Resident Evil 4 Remake does not have the same impact, but it never could. Instead, it just takes that same energy and cranks it up to modern speeds. There is so much more that can happen in this village area here, and that's really the shocking thing about all this. RE4 was already a game that was, frankly, too goddamn big, but it just worked somehow. But RE4 Remake here is even bigger, something I never thought would be possible. Okay, man, where to even start? Well, you cannot stop this villager from burning the local policeman alive. Even if you rush out and start shooting, you cannot interrupt his animation of throwing the torch and basking in his suffering. It's a pretty brutal moment and made me feel really bad for those guys, something I definitely didn't think about in the original game. Speaking of fire, you can light the cow on fire and have a raging fire cow. I've seen some people have this path blocked with the cart, but I ran around for a while. It never happened for me. The south part of the village has been pretty greatly expanded with a bunch of new paths, and you'd think with more areas to roam in, this section would be easier than ever. But the villagers are so much faster. I mean, you can get away, but you have just seconds before they are right in your face again. And there are so many villagers. I counted in the remake demo, 15 villagers chasing me. In the GameCube demo, I don't know, it's like 5, 6. I also blew this woman in half with a grenade, and it looked like she was all tentacly inside. Kind of creepy. So Dr. Salvador, aka the Chainsaw Man, still spawns when you enter the 2-story house, but he also just shows up after a few minutes, and his design is crazy. Look at those eyes. And if you let him chase you around long enough, there are 2 spots on the map where he'll just start cutting shit down to block your path. Oh, one thing missing in the remake though. You cannot shoot through doors. Doors are indestructible, I guess, unless you have a chainsaw. In the original game, you could hold up in a house, block the door, and take shots as they tried to get in, though they can still throw their axes from outside. Not that the enemies in Remake need to be any more deadly. It was a little disappointing to see this tech was not here. And here's something I only just discovered. In the Japanese Famitsu demo, this house has like a giant velvet picture of Mr. Chainsaw himself, like he's freaking Elvis or something. If you walk up to it, you can examine it, and there is text that reads something like, "The Chainsaw Man is a local legend. They say no matter how many times you kill him, he always gets back up. He's the richest man in town though," which I guess is trying to explain canonically why there's more than one of them and why they drop so much money. Strangest thing is, this is only in the Famitsu GameCube demo. It is not in the North American GameCube demo. It is in neither the American or Japanese completed game, or even referenced in the remake. What the hell? And of course, the most important part is the end here. In the remake, the bell rings in-game, and you get to experience that eerie moment in real time when all the enemies suddenly stop chasing you. And then of course...
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
Oh man, it's beautiful. And those are the Resident Evil 4 demos. They both end there. But one last thing. While I was making this video, Resident Evil 4 Remake's review embargo went up, and in their 10 out of 10 flawless, perfect, amazing review, the reviewer at IGN casually mentions that RE4 was a game that needed to be remade because the controls are so bad. And when I heard that, I thought, oh crap, is this the start of RE4 was never good revisionism? I will echo what I have said before. RE4's stiff controls are something you get used to because every aspect of the combat and enemy behavior is built around Leon's inability to move with his weapon drawn. Did games like Dead Space and Gears of War greatly improve on these controls? Sure. But if you gave free movement to Leon in the original Resident Evil 4, you'd have to completely rebalance the game, which Armature did with their exceptional VR port. If you think that RE4 was never good and needed a remake, I dare say you never played past this demo. The starting pistol does suck, and the controls do take some time to get used to. I can see how the beginning of RE4 could put off some new players, but that is a rough first impression, not was never good. Or it could be something else, that I am getting mad about absolutely nothing here. Like I said at the start of this video, I made this right before Remake came out, so I'm sure there are probably a few things that are going to age incredibly poorly, but hey, I guess I'm documenting the time before the world changed forever with the Resident Evil 4 remake. Or maybe I don't really care. This is the no spoilers that the people demanded.
Just pure misinformation. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No spoilers.
I don't know. You don't know. No one knows. Damn it. And I have my chainsaws here, and I have 4 copies of Resident Evil 4. Also Dead Space. Dead Space remake is really good.
Resting on top of Dark Souls, implying that Dead Space is the Dark Souls of Resident Evil, which
or it's just
a truly uncontroversial statement.
Or it's just 3 big things that fill space and stack it up maybe, but yeah.
I know what you mean. I know what you said.
I'm gonna be real though, like this one was just for me. Grace was out of town and I wanted to do something kind of quickly. The Chainsaw demo just kind of fell into my lap, so I decided to basically remake the GameCube demo video that I made 11 years ago, which was my very first Resident Evil 4 video. Look how far I've come. Grace has a recurring joke in her podcast, and because Resident Evil invariably always comes up, she likes to note time to Resident Evil mention. So hey, if you want to hear about more Resident Evil fueled nonsense, check out any episode of our podcast, Stop Skeletons and Podcasting, which all these people down here can listen to live because they are Patreon supporters. Thanks to all our patrons. Without your support, I truly don't know what I would have done the last couple of weeks. I've had people tell me over the years, that my videos have helped them through tough times. But that's two-way street. On the other side of that, making these videos for you all helps me out a lot. You give me something to distract my brain when real life hits. So thank you so much for watching. Subscribe, check out the podcast, join us on Patreon, and you know what? Just stay tuned. We'll see you again real soon. Stay powerful.